Let's be real for a second. Almost every single one of us has either been in a relationship that hurts, knows someone who's drowning in one, or maybe is even in one right now. And, the cruelest part is that we often don't see how deep we are in a toxic cycle until the thought of leaving feels way more terrifying than staying. So today, we're going to pull back that curtain and look at those patterns. That quote really hits home, right? Because the pain, it isn't always about the big, dramatic fights. Sometimes it's just this slow, quiet death of effort. It's that awful feeling that the love didn't just disappear, it was abandoned. And that silence, man, that can cut deeper than any angry word ever could. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Every relationship hits bumps in the road, those rough patches. But how on earth are you supposed to know the difference? Is this a temporary storm you can weather together? Or is it a deep, corrosive pattern that's slowly breaking you? Well, that's what we're here to unpack. And we're going to start with how the deepest pain often begins not with a bang, but with total silence. So we're starting here with what I call the quiet decay. Because before we even get to the loud, obvious drama, you've got to understand that some of the worst relationship damage doesn't scream at you. It whispers. It's that slow fade from constant connection to nothing.
You know how it begins. That effortless connection, right? The late-night calls that last for hours. The constant "I miss you" texts. You are their favorite notification. But then, it starts to shift. The replies get slower. "I'll call you later" becomes a promise that's never kept. And soon, you find yourself typing out these long, heartfelt paragraphs, just pouring your soul out, only to just delete it all. Because you know the only reply you're going to get is more silence.
All right, so from that quiet pain, things can really start to escalate into these more active, more toxic dynamics. This is where we need to define the patterns that so often disguise themselves as intense passion or deep love, but are actually, at their core, all about control. A really common one is emotional manipulation. This is when you hear things like, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't go out with your friends tonight." On the surface, it sounds like they're just insecure, like they miss you. But what it really is, it's control wrapped up in a plea. They figure out exactly which of your emotional buttons to press to get what they want, and they use your love for them as a leash. And then there's gaslighting. This is something else entirely. It's truly insidious. Here's how it works. Your partner does something that really hurts you. You bring it out, and they look you dead in the eye and say, "That never happened. You're being overly emotional." You hear that enough times, you actually start to doubt your own mind. You become dependent on their version of reality because yours feels like it's completely falling apart. So these are the kinds of red flags you really have to watch for. It often starts with something that seems like they're just being caring, right? Like checking your phone because they worry about you. Then comes the constant criticism, the little digs designed to chip away at your confidence and make you easier to manage. Slowly, they isolate you from your friends, your family, until their voice is the only one you hear. And that's how they build the cage. And this is pretty much how it happens. It's almost never a sudden shift. It's a progression, a slow fade. That effortless connection just decays over time. The energy vanishes. You go from being their absolute priority to just staring at that little last seen timestamp, knowing full well they saw your message and made a conscious choice not to reply. And that choice speaks volumes. I really want you to listen to this one. Think about it. If you have to mentally write a script, plan out your words, edit your own sentences just to bring up something that's bothering you because you're terrified of the explosion or the silent treatment that's going to follow, that is not a communication problem. That is a safety problem. Healthy relationships don't force you to swallow your own feelings just to keep the peace. So the big question is, why? Why does this stuff happen? Let's dive into the psychology behind these dynamics. And it's really important to get this straight. Explaining the behavior is not, I repeat, not the same as excusing it. But if we ever want to break the cycle, we have to understand the engine that makes it run. Almost always, these patterns are fueled by really deep-seated issues. It could be unresolved trauma from their past, causing them to repeat damaging behaviors they saw or experienced as a kid. Low self-esteem is another huge one, and it can infect both people, the one who feels they don't deserve any better, and the one who has to tear their partner down just to feel big. You can see how you can't build a stable house on two broken foundations.
This often creates a classic and really painful pairing: the anxious partner and the avoided partner. See, these styles often form in childhood. So you get one person who is terrified of being abandoned, and the second they sense some distance, they cling on even tighter.
Well, that makes the other person, who learned that intimacy is a threat, feel completely suffocated, so they pull away even more. It creates this intense push-pull dance that feels like passion, but it's really just two people reenacting their deepest wounds on each other.
And while we're on the topic, let's get clear about codependency. It's not just being really attached. It's when your entire sense of who you are gets swallowed up by the relationship. You literally don't know who you are without them. You sacrifice your own needs so often that you forget you're even allowed to have them. You stop being a person in a relationship, you are the relationship.
So if any of this is sounding alarmingly familiar, you're probably asking, okay, so what do I do? This final section is all about the path forward. It's about how you can start to reclaim your own reality and actually begin to heal.
I'm not gonna lie, this first step is absolutely the hardest. It's brutal, because you have to hold two completely opposite ideas in your head at the same time. I love this person, and this person is hurting me. Both of those things can be true. You don't have to stop loving them to start protecting yourself. But admitting the harm is real, that's the moment you start taking your power back.
So what are the practical steps? Okay, number 1, set one small boundary. Their reaction will tell you everything you need to know. A healthy partner respects it. A toxic one will escalate. 2, write things down. Your journal is your anchor to reality when they're trying to gaslight you. 3, reconnect with your people, your friends, your family. And 4, and this is crucial, get a therapist for yourself and only for yourself before you even consider couples counseling. And please, please know that you are not alone. These resources on your screen, they aren't just for physical abuse. Emotional and psychological abuse are every bit as real and just as valid. These people are trained to help. Your experience matters. Reaching out is a sign of incredible strength, not weakness. Because ultimately, this is the goal. This is what you're fighting for. A love where your voice feels safe, where your successes are celebrated, not seen as a threat, where you can be completely and utterly yourself without living in fear of punishment. You deserve that, period. So I'll leave you with this final question to think about. Just take a moment and really consider it. If you could magically remove all the fear from the equation, the fear of their reaction, the fear of being alone, the fear of starting another argument, what would be left? What could your life and your love actually look like?